What's up, guys? Part 2 of the scary stories. You guys have been
You're so
asking.
quiet today.
You said what?
You're so quiet today. Your voice is so low.
I'm tired. I am a little tired. But we're doing part 2 of the scary stories that you guys have been asking and requesting. So we're gonna go ahead and drop that. I think we took. I think I told the story of my dad's stories, and then like the story at my mom's house, and then I think you've already told. What stories did you tell?
The one where I saw that lady looking into like in the room at my dad's house, and then the one I think where I had sleep paralysis.
Okay. Yeah. I think we were gonna do. Oh, I have another story, but on my mom's like scary stories that happened to her in Mexico. I'll probably say that one. But you want to go first this time? Because I went first last time.
You went first also?
I don't remember. Rock, paper, scissors?
So whoever wins goes first, or whoever loses goes first?
Whoever loses goes first. Alright, you ready? Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. I lost, so I go first. So, basically, my mom was growing up, and in her part of, like, where she was from, in her part of Mexico, she had to walk a long way to school, and she had to pass through basically like this field of abandoned homes, and she was walking. And she normally walks with her sister, which is my aunt Banchis, and she didn't walk with my aunt this time. So when she was walking through those abandoned houses, she said that she saw a door open, and when she looked towards that door,
We're like in the middle of nowhere. There was a door.
Yeah. Like it's like I think it was like 2 miles of walking, and in between those 2 miles, there's like an abandoned strip of just homes that they built, and they're like old, raggedy, done, just beat up, busted up homes. And my mom basically was like, "Yo, I'm gonna go ahead and just." She always walked really quick by those. She always told me she didn't like them, but she said she heard the door. Yeah, she saw the door open to one, and she saw a hand like come out of the door, and it went like this and started waving, and then she was like, "What?" And then she cut a little closer, and then the hand started going like this, like come in. My mom freaked out. She said she started running, and she said she did not turn back. She started running as fast as she could, and this is like elementary days. She said she was like in like 5th grade, 6th grade. Yeah, like imagine, she's used to walking with her older sister, and this time she didn't have her older sister to walk with. So when she saw that, she was like, I'm done. I can't. So she just took off running, and that was like one scary story that she had told us that happened to her in Mexico.
Scary.
I started something just grab on her neck, put on her neck. I don't really feel like that,
I mean, that's not scary. I guess I'll say the one about my imaginary friend Belen.
Oh yeah.
So, growing up, well, even nowadays, like my parents still like always tell me like, "Who your friend Belen here?" Because apparently, when I was younger, I had an imaginary friend called Belen, and my mom for a very long time. My mom was a stay-at-home mom when I was younger. It was just me and my sister Astrid at the time. I was born in El Paso, so we lived in El Paso at the time, and my mom was with us like all the time by herself. So it was just me and Astrid. So my mom says that I would like, she would notice me like sometimes being in my room talking to myself. I'm 3 years older than my younger sister Astrid, and at that time I think I was maybe like 3 or 4, maybe 5-ish if anything. So Astrid was little, like I really wouldn't play with her much. But my mom says like, I had my own room and stuff, and she says like sometimes trying to reconnect, that she would pass by the hallway and she would kind of see me like talking or laughing and playing with someone, and then my mom like,
what's up, Chloe? What's up, Pauline?
Now my mom would ask me like, "Hey, like, who are you talking to?" Like, just randomly sometimes, like, "Who are you talking to? Like, who do you speak with? Who do you play with?" and that I would always say like my friend, my friend. And
Do you remember a lot of that, anyways? Like growing up?
I don't remember that. Like I remember I would have a lot of bad dreams in that room, like in that room that and it's a very vivid image of how my room was set up at the time. Um, but anyways, my mom would ask me like, who do you play with or who are you talking to? And that I would say like, oh, mi amiga, like my friend. And my mom would always be like, would get a little freaked out because she's like, you would legit like have a whole conversation with somebody. She's like, but I would try not to pay like any mind to it. Um, and that one day, one of my tias, which is my dad's sister, lived kind of in the same lot because we lived in trailer in like mobile homes, and she lived in the same area, but she had like an actual home. But she would visit us a lot since it was like walking distance. And my mom says that my tia had went over, and I was in the room playing, and that my tia came in and like said hi to me or something, and that that I said to my tia like, "Oh, you just made my friend mad," and then my tia was like,
"That's crazy.
What friend?" And that I was like my friend right here, like that I pointed to the side, and then my tia was like, "Why did I make her mad?" And she's like, "Well, because you didn't say hi to her." And my tia was like telling my mom like I was just trying to play along, and that she asked her like, well, that she asked me, "What is your friend's name?" And then I said, "Oh, my friend Belen." And that's how they, I guess, figured out what my friend's name was, right? Belen. So my aunt told my mom the story or whatever, sitting her like I was just in the room, just telling me this, like apparently she has a friend called Belen. So my mom like getting freaked out. She was telling my tia like, yeah, she always has like conversations with someone, and every time I ask her, she says that she's talking to a friend. So thing is, everybody kind of like knew like, oh, she has like a little friend or something, right? They didn't pay much mind to it. But what really freaked my mom and my dad out one day was that my grandma, rest in peace, my abuelita Emilia, was coming from, I don't know if she was coming from like Denver. She was visiting one of my other uncles that lived somewhere else, like out of state. And she was coming to visit us, and she was going to stay with us. So we were going to go pick her up at the airport. So something happened with I think we were stuck in traffic or something. So she had already arrived at the airport, and we were still on our way to go get her. But this is back in the old days when like cell phones and stuff really weren't a thing. Like all you had was like a home phone. Mm-hmm. So we were on our way to pick up my grandma from the airport, and apparently I guess my grandma was waiting. My grandma was waiting for a very long time. She was getting like antsy and stuff. So she says that she calls the house, right? She calls the home phone, and apparently somebody tells her like, oh, we're on our way to get her. So when we pick her up at the airport, like my grandma's like, yeah, I was getting a little concerned about you guys not making it here on time. She's like, but then I called the house, and somebody answered me, and then she like looks back, and it's me and my sister in the back seat. And so my grandma's like, wait, if Astrid and Zoe are here, like who was at the house? And she's like, because when I called, she's like, and I thought it was Zoe, like she thought it was me playing around. She's like, I called earlier, and a little girl answered the phone. She's like, and I told her, she's like, I thought it was Zoe, so I told her, mija, me pasas a tu mamá. And that the little girl answered my grandma and said, oh, nobody's home. Yeah, they're on their way to pick you up. And that my grandma asked her like, who is this? And then she said, oh, mi nombre es Belen. No. So this little girl answered my grandma, and so my grandma didn't know about my imaginary friend at the time. Like my grandma had no idea that my parents hadn't talked to her about this. So when my grandma says this, my mom and dad said they looked at each other and they were like, what the hell? Yo,
I would have been.
Yeah, sure. And then my grandma was like, what's going on? And then my parents, went on and told my grandma like, Belen is this imaginary friend that Zoe always talks about. Like, Zoe's always talking about, like, this imaginary friend that she plays with in the room or that she talks to. She's like, but, like, obviously my parents are like, we've never seen her. She's like, but that's so freaky that right now when you called, a little girl answered and told you that her name was Belen. So, but I have no, like, I don't remember, like, I don't remember talking to anybody. My mom says I was really young. Like I said, I was maybe, like, 4 or 5 years old at the time, but so that was a little scary thing that my mom was like that, like freaked her out. Like I remember my mom saying like after that, like she would she wouldn't like to be at home. Like, she would always tell my dad, like, please try to make it home before it gets dark, because I don't want to be here by myself and your crazy ass child talking to her imaginary friend.
No, that sounds freaky as heck.
And that was, I mean, this scary. And like, my parents were always like, ever since then, they were like, you know, for a long time, they just thought it was like me as a kid, like having an imagination. I mean, have in mind, like, at that time, tablets weren't a thing. Like I said, cell phones weren't a thing. So literally, it was always me just playing with my Barbie dolls, like just toys that I had. And another crazy thing my mom would always say at that trailer home, I had a little boombox because I've always liked music and stuff. Like, I've always liked anywhere where I'm at, like, I like to, you know, hear music. But my mom would say, like, sometimes that little boombox was in my closet, and she would say, like, that thing would turn on by itself. She said that even one day, she was in the kitchen and she was feeding me and my little sister, and that the thing turned on, like
what?
The boombox turned on, yeah. And she's like, I went over there and she's like, I was just thinking, like, this thing was just getting old, messing up or whatever. She went into the closet to turn it off, and by the time she made it into the room, the thing turned off, right? But she was like, you know what, let me just disconnect it so this thing can stop turning on and off. When she went to go disconnect it, that thing wasn't even connected. Like, it wasn't even plugged into the outlet.
I would have been like, there's no way.
So I mean, I don't know. My mom was strong, because I would have been like, hell no, I would have grabbed my kids and said,
Yo,
bye.
what do you guys do whenever there's something that's freaky going on? Like, in instances where I've caught myself, I pray. I still pray to this day, you know. Like, no matter what the scenario is, I start Our Father, start persinándome, talking about the whole 9 yards. I don't know if that's something that you start doing.
I mean, I do. I like anytime like something scary happens, like, I just kind of put myself with like positive thoughts, or I'll start praying and like thinking about like God, and just, sorry guys for interrupting our video.
Jeez.
Somebody,
hey, which one of y'all broke into that car? I was probably Pauline, knowing her. That's what really was.
She came by there and she's like, hey, I like this car, I'm gonna go break into it.
Yeah, that's what you was scoping out the parking lot yesterday.
Yeah, but that's crazy. So, I've never had like I mean, like I said, I don't remember my imaginary friend. I was probably too young to remember that stuff.
So one of the incidents that I remember happening to us was so it was me, my cousin Daniel, and it was George and Jose. They were the Bueno twins. Shout out to those good friends of mine. They're still good friends of mine. I just wanted to give a quick shout out. But we Pauline said, shh, snitches get stitches. Good old Pauline. So I remember when we would spend the night. It was me, my cousin, and the Bueno twins. We'd be spending the night at his house, and we'd all sleep in the living room. Man, I'm not gonna lie, we were young. We would get high. We would be chilling in the living room, watching movies, eating, and all that, right? So we were like completely gone, toasted. We were just. It was just like a really good night, right? It's probably like 2 in the morning, something like that. And then we're like, you know what? Let's go ahead and call it a night. We're gonna go to sleep. We're laying down, we're sleeping, and all I remember was just like hearing noises from like the vents, the hallways, the rooms. I'm talking about like footsteps, somebody knocking, somebody scratching, moving things. I could not get any sleep. And I thought it was just me, but then the next day, literally, they told me, hey, like, how'd you guys got some good sleep? Man, I told them what I heard, and then it wasn't just me. They all hear the same thing, and I even told George and Jose, like...
Wait, this was at the Bueno Twins house?
Yeah, so...
I think I remember you telling me that story.
Yeah, they...
The night that happened, you told me.
Yeah.
Well, the next day.
They'll tell me, and they told me that they've had instances where they hear that same thing, like, oh, you know what? Like, that's not the only night. We've heard it many times, multiple times. And I'm just like, yeah, that's not right, but... And it's not like it's an old house. It's just things that has happened in their house. And I'm just like, I don't know how or what, you can actually get some, proper rest in. But that's just something that, they've gone through. But, and then same thing. So back at my mom's house, it's that, for that pesadilla, which is, like, what is that? Sleep paralysis. Going back to that is just like, man, it just kind of brings back memories of whenever I'd be over there. So like, you know, when I would smoke weed, I'd go to sleep, and like the thoughts and your mindset and all that, it helped, or not, sorry, not help, but it would make my dreams turn into like just scary, you know, monster, bad, demon type dreams. So it was, you know, giving me like those just nightmares dreams of like everything you can think of, like from like demons, ghosts. So I had many of those, you know, nightmares, you know, going to sleep, doing all that kind of stuff. But you know, it's just obviously when once I stopped smoking all that weed, you know, I wouldn't have those kind of crazy dreams anymore, you know. But you know, it's just.
You still wanted me to smoke weed.
Oh,
You have all these experiences and you want me to go through that shit?
I mean, it's okay. It just comes down to like the mindset, you know, like because like okay, have you ever had a instance where you're just like walking and then your what is that called? Your side view, your peripheral vision. You're like looking, and then you just see something pass by really quick, and you look, and you promise and you swear that you've seen something just pass right by. So I have that happen all the time, and I know some of you guys have had that happen too, where you saw something go right by you, and you're just like, I know I saw something. More than likely, it's the peripheral vision just catching that. Now I don't know if it's something really is there. I don't know if it's something's
There's
not
a
there.
scientific explanation.
Yeah, or right. You know, say somebody look that up, see if that's something like, you know, like. I mean, there's probably gonna be a lot of people saying that nothing like that exists. That there is an explanation or a reason behind it, but you know, you never know what the truth behind it is. You know, like if it really is something that's by you or passing by you. But I know I've had many instances when I've seen something like in my old house. I'm always catching things on the side. Like I know, or the worst ones are when you see something there, like an actual human form. I've had that happen a couple of times, like in my own house.
Your mom's restroom,
Mhm.
and JC has said that too. Like
Yeah.
JC says that when he passes by that restroom, and I've seen it too, and I would see it too before. But like I said, I don't like to freak myself out with these things. Like I always like think positive or think of something different. But if you've ever like Pauline, I don't know if you've ever seen it. If you've ever happened, you know, to go by my mother-in-law's, the first restroom that she has, like if you pass by, like not super fast, but just like walking by, but not looking into the restroom, just with your peripheral view, it looks like there's somebody sitting, like where the toilet is at. Like it looks like there's somebody just kind of sitting like that. And it's weird because Oliver was mentioning it one day that we went by. And I think it was we went and you mentioned it because your mom wasn't home, right? And I think it was late at night. And Oliver's like, so you guys, like, yo, I'll come inside with me or something. And Jason's like, Dad, are you scared or something?
Yeah, I told
like,
Charlotte I'm scared.
It's because sometimes,
Honestly,
like,
yes,
when I
but
come
I
to my
can't
mom's
see
house,
because of my glasses. I'm blind. I have to say I don't have time to these guard the house and help me find my keys.
so Oliver was like, yeah, I'm kind of scared because sometimes, like, in my mom's restroom, like, I kind of see somebody there. And Jason was like, you do too, Dad? Like, I've seen that too. And when they said that, I was like, oh shit, like, I've seen it too. But sometimes I try to find like a logical explanation. So like, you know how your mom has the cortina that has like flowers on it?
Oh yeah.
Like sometimes I'm just like, maybe it's just the form, like the shape of the flower that makes it look like that. I don't know. Like I said, I don't like to scare myself with too many things like that because, you know, I don't like to put too much thought to it. But I mean, I'm pretty sure there's things out there, and you know, I mean, like I said, at the old house with Kenny, I remember that one handprint that was at that
on the very
on the
top
wall.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because when we first moved into that house, you know, well, because we were renting that home, you know how they have you do like a whole inspection and stuff to like make sure like if anything's ruined, you make a note of it so that whenever you leave, like they don't charge you the deposit or whatever, right? So I remember specifically, and I was telling Oliver, this is when Oliver was working in Brazil. Um, so I did the walkthrough for the house because he actually didn't come into like 3 days after we had got in the house. So I did the walkthrough to the house, and I remember like I never saw that handprint there. Like I had not seen that handprint, and I remember checking that because my dad was like, my dad works to leave maintenance at apartments. So he's like, make sure you check everything, like every wall, like if there's a hole or something, you don't want them to charge you this at the end. So I remember walking through everything and checking everything, and I never saw that handprint there. And then all of a sudden, like one night, I think we were getting home from. We used to go out and to bars and stuff with some of our friends. And I remember we were getting home and the kids were already asleep. It was one of the nights that my sisters were babysitting. Everybody was already asleep, and we got home and we walked into the room or whatever. And I remember I was like a little buzzed or whatever, so I was like, getting undressed and putting on my pajamas, and I was sitting on the bed. And the way we had the bed at the time is, um, the bed was facing the vanity in front of the restroom, and then the restroom was to the left. And on that wall, that's where that handprint was at. So I remember sitting down and I was like taking my heels off, and as I was like kind of kneeling down, like bending down to like remove my heel, like I remember looking to the wall, and I saw that handprint, and I was just like, but I remember like being buzzed, so I didn't tell Oliver anything. Like I was just like, maybe it's just like I'm fucking drunk or something. So I remember just kind of, moving it to the side or whatever, and then I changed. We went to bed, and in the morning we woke up. So the thing was that handprint, you were only able to see it if like the light hit it at a certain way. So that day it was right in the morning, so like the light from the sunlight was shining in, so you couldn't see it. So I didn't think about it too much. But then I remembered like throughout, like halfway throughout the day, I was like, I remember seeing a handprint, and we were sitting at the table, and I was like, hey, last night when we got here, like I could have sworn I seen like a handprint on the wall that's by the restroom, by the vanity. And I was like, what handprint? And I was like, maybe you were doing something, like maybe one day you were like, because he liked to do a lot of mechanic work and stuff. So I was like, maybe one day you walked in with your hands dirty and maybe you leaned against the wall or something. But the way the placement of that handprint was in such a weird area where like you had to like reach up and like actually put your hand there to like put the handprint there. But like I said, I was trying to find a logical explanation. I was like, maybe one day you were working outside and you walked in with your hands dirty and it just like, you stained the wall. And so he's like, show me. So we go to the room and I'm like, look, it's right there. So he sees it and he's like, grab me a napkin or something to wipe it off. You could not wipe the handprint off.
It wouldn't even come
that
off.
handprint looked like it was on the, like, when you freshly paint something and then somebody puts like a handprint and you just, like, if it dries, you can't take it off. That's literally how that handprint was. And I mean, I didn't remember seeing it when I first moved in. So
where's that word that I had came up with? There's people that like live in your attics. They actively live in your attics and they come
there's
down.
a movie about that.
Yeah, but it was like, I forgot the name. Squatter? No, not Squatter.
Yeah.
Have y'all heard of that?
There's a movie. I don't know what it's called. I don't know what
it's called. It's whenever they have a movie. It's on Netflix too.
Man. No, you search it up.
Here. Let me see. Oh, the most recent scare that I had was at my job. I when sometimes I'll get there first and it's completely dark. I remember just squatter.
Are you trying to see what the term is?
Frogging. That's what it's called. Look up frogging. Everybody, if you're watching this, look up the term frogging. There's an actual movie or video on that. So at the time I didn't think about that, but now that I'm thinking about it, it's like, what if we were living there and somebody like was living? Did we have where was it, in the garage, right? Man.
But the thing about us is we wouldn't lock the garage door.
Sometimes we wouldn't.
Because it was like our garage door was connected to, so we had a front door, like the front door was right here, and then the garage door, it was like, someone dropped my wine. The front door was here, and the garage door was like right here. So a lot of times we would just lock the front door, like the garage door would stay unlocked because obviously the actual door to the garage you couldn't open it unless you opened it with the remote. So I mean, I guess we were too confident sometimes that we like trusted people too much. But sometimes we wouldn't lock it. So I mean, if there was somebody living in the attic, they probably. And like I said, there was a lot of times like we talked about the little remote control car with JC that turned on. It had no batteries in it.
Yeah, that was.
So we would hear a lot of noises sometimes, and we would just try to like brush it off. I mean, I've never, like, the handprint was probably the only thing that ever really happened that I was just like, what the heck? Like, where's this come from?
The witch's laugh was the worst right there.
Yeah. But you know, one time my this and buses come to me Canda's house, her old house on Paulus Avenue. It was so scary too because my tia and my mom were making tamales late at night, and I stayed up with them. We were helping them embarrar las hojas and all of that stuff, but everybody else went to bed. And at that time, that's when we had first moved to Dallas, so we used to sleep. My mom, my dad, and my 3 sisters. We used to sleep in the living room. We get on this house because she lived in a duplex. It was really small. So my parent, like I said, my parents and my sisters would sleep on the living room, and the living room was right here, and the kitchen was here. So I remember that day, my mom had set up like a cobertor, like across the wall, so that my parent and my dad and my sisters could sleep. And I don't know why we were sitting in the freaking dark. First of all, we're like sitting in the dark, and my dad and my mom are talking, and they're conversating, and we heard somebody laugh outside, like an evil laugh, and
That's
we were
crazy.
just like my dad and my mom looked at each other, and that was like one of the first or second times that I've ever heard of a lechuza. And my mom and my tia looked at each other, and they're just like, "Oíste eso?" And then I was just like looking at them, and I'm just like, "I heard that too." My tia like my tia was like, "I'm gonna look out the window." My mom was like, "No, Kanda, like no mires pa fuera, like no mires pa fuera," because apparently they say like if you have like an encounter with the witch, that's when they try to like provoke you and they try to like attack you. So my mom was like, "What if like the lechuza está allá afuera?" And my tia was like, "Oh, let me see." So she like peeks out of the window, but she's like, everything looks so dark. She's like, "No se mira nada," but we kept hearing the laugh. Mom and my tia were like, "Let's go to bed." Like that means it's time for us to go to bed. But it's like an evil laugh. Like it sounds nasty.
Yeah, we heard like 3 of them that night. So on that one incident, I got to work early. I was the first one there. All I remember was just opening the door and everything's pitch black. I close the door. I usually lock it just in case, And then I'm walking in towards a hall and everything's just quiet. Just like a regular morning. I in the dark. I've never really. No one's that comfortable in the dark. Sorry, I don't know. I mean, maybe some people are, but I don't get that comfortable in the dark. But so I heard as I was walking closer to the light, I kind of heard like somebody grabbing the doorknob, and then as soon as I quickly turned the light on, I looked around to see. The noise stopped, and then there's two restroom doors, and then an office, and then a hallway, and then there's an office farther down. So I was like, I know one of those doors rattled. So I was like, okay, that was weird. So I went back in to my office room or whatever where the office desk is at, and then I just started hearing the doorknob going again, like just somebody trying to open it, and then trying to open the door at the same time and the doorknob, and I was freaking out. I know I was the only one. I got up real quick. I turned around. I started walking towards the door. I got my phone out and I started recording. And I think I still have the video too. But all I hear is just like the door, just slowly opening and closing and trying to open the doorknob. And then I go closer towards that actual.
My mom's watching. Mami, ¿te acuerdas de mi amiga Belén?
Oh, tu mamá va a decir, esa niña, ¿por qué me estás dándome recuerdos de esos tiempos bien que me dan mucho miedo? Yeah, I ended up just recording that incident though, but that doorknob and that door was just opening and closing. I think I have it on my phone. I'll see if I can show you. Man, all I remember was just that door, and I got up to that door and I turned it myself, and then I was like, I opened it, and then I left it open. Nothing happened. I closed the door again. Completely nothing happened anymore. And I sent that video to my boss, and he did not respond whatsoever to it. He just ignored it, that whole video, because I sent it to him and that was it. He never responded anymore. But that was like the most recent incident that happened. That was actually at where I work now. That was a pretty little interesting.
Wow, my job. Remember I told you one time I heard them yell out my name.
What?
Yeah, a while. This was a while back. This was before I was managing the office. This was when Karina and Eunice were still there. So back then, it was Karina and Eunice, and I was the lead assistant. I mean, I was the only assistant, to be honest. All the other assistants would kind of come and help. So I was in charge.
Hey, what up, Paul?
I was in charge of the supply ordering and all that stuff. So a lot of the times I would stay there like way past time. Like, Eunice and Karina would leave, and I would stay after hours to, make sure I had the supply. To make sure that I would place that I would place the orders and stuff. And I remember that day, especially and it was around this time where it gets dark really early. So I remember Karina would tell me like, hey, if it gets dark and you're here by yourself, just lock the front door. Because the area I work in is kind of like a little ghetto, so there's a lot of homeless people and stuff. So she was like, if you're working here late by yourself, just lock the door from the inside so that nobody can come in or whatever. And Galaxia's right next door to us, so sometimes they'll come in and like they'll ask to borrow stuff. But the thing about our office, like most businesses, you have those little like door, what is it called? The little things that ding whenever the door opens, like to alert you that somebody has
those are like alarms.
Yeah. So like to alert you that somebody has come into the business. So, and we have one for the front and back door. But when I was there by myself, like I would lock the back door, I would lock the front door, and that day, like I said, sometimes Galaxia staff would come in and ask to borrow stuff, or like would come and say, "Hey, Zoe," like just to talk to me or whatever, right? So that day, I remember I locked the front door and the back door because it was getting dark, and I was sitting down in the front like reception area, counting instruments, in the pedo cart that we use for our pediatric dentist. Like I was counting a lot of the stuff, like making inventory to see what I had to order, and I remembered, I was like, oh shit, like, I'm sorry. I remember I was like, oh, the crowns, like the stainless steel crowns that we use for the little kids, like they're in the back. So I remember getting up to go to the back to go get them. And as I'm walking to the back, I hear someone say, Zoe. Like they yelled my name. Like they said, Zoe. And I was just like, in my head, like at that time, I was just like, oh shoot, like somebody from Galaxia probably walked in and needs something. So I remember like rushing to the front, like with the crowns, and I'm like rushing to the front. And as I make it like midway to the front, I'm just like chills go down my body, and I'm just like, wait. I'm like, I'm in here by myself. The doors are locked.
Who called your name?
Who the heck called my name? And then I'm just like, okay, maybe I didn't lock the door. And so I go to the door that leads from our back office to the front. I open it, and the keys are hanging from the door. Like the door's locked. And I'm just like, okay, maybe I didn't lock it. I'm still like doubting myself, like logically trying to think, like somebody had to come in here. I push on the handle, the door's locked. That day, I grabbed my crap. I said, you know what? Hell no, I ain't staying here any longer. Packed my shit and I freaking left. I didn't even finish doing inventory. The next day I came and I told Karina and Eunice about that. I was like, somebody yelled out my name and shit.
Did they say anything like, oh?
Karina's like, well, that's your crazy ass for trying to stay here that late. She's like, I told you I don't be staying here that late. And the thing about where our office is at, there used to be a motel. I don't know if you remember.
I did not know that.
It used to be a motel, and that motel actually burned down.
So people might have died?
People might have died in there. I don't know. That motel used to get raided a lot because they used to prostitute people there, guys. So it would get raided a lot. And eventually, when they finally closed it, it was because it actually burned down like completely. So they shut it down, and then they rebuilt it. They built the office there. But that day, I was just like, oh heck no, like somebody called out my name. I said, nope, I'm packing my stuff. And for a while, it took me a while to like stay again. Like for a while, I would leave. As soon as everybody was leaving, I was like, heck no, I'm out of here. And now here and there, like I try to pray, and I'm just like, now I have to be there a lot of times for myself. So I just try to pray. And honestly, I try to stay like no later than like 5:30. Like if I'm by myself, no later than 5:30 before I can start. I'm like, hey, no, I'm staying here by myself.
Yeah, no, that's. I mean, they've always. I don't know if someone's ever told y'all guys, but like, whenever somebody, or not somebody, but whenever, like, because what it is bad, negative, demon energy, and so there's like testing you, trying to see if you're gonna fall for the bait or try to like come, whatever the case is that demon is just trying to like, grow or get attached to, whatever you want to call it, right? So, long story short, you're supposed to ignore it. You don't acknowledge it.
You don't talk to it.
You don't talk to it. You don't try to figure out what it's trying to do. Like, like a Ouija board. So those are things that are trying to like invite or connect with the dead or the negative.
My dad and Diaz actually used to have a lot of scary stories. Like, remember my dad was telling you that?
Oh yeah.
He was saying something about one of my uncles, Victor Ramiro. He was saying that they used to scare him a lot at one of the houses. Remember, like my dad would say, like they would pull on his feet or they would pull the blankets off of him while he was trying to sleep. Like my uncle couldn't sleep for a while because they would mess with him. Like, and it would always happen at night. They would come, they would laugh at him, like they would legit laugh. They would pull the covers off of him. They would pull on his feet, like he was telling you that day that we went.
No, yeah, he couldn't sleep. He could not sleep. He would try to like go sleep with my father-in-law. That's how crazy it was. I mean, I'm gonna tell y'all right now, as this world is full of all kinds of crap, but like when it comes to that scary stuff, like don't, oh man, ignore it. Don't try to mess with that type of stuff, cause man, oh man, that's not no joke.
The story about my dolls. So,
oh yeah.
When I was little, I have a cousin, Yareli. We grew up together, like we did everything together because we're really close in age. I'm 8 days older than her. But a lot of times during the summer, she would come and stay with me and my mom and my dad at the time and my sister. She would come over, and at that time, and when we were little, like my mom and my tia would try to buy us a lot of like the same stuff to avoid like us to fight and stuff. And my tia and my mom had actually bought us like these life-size dolls at the time. That we would play with, and they had just gotten them for us, so we were always playing with these dolls and everything. And I remember that night, I'm just ripping that part, not letting me concentrate. But I remember that night, my mom kept telling me and my cousin, like, "Hey, it's already time for bed. It's time for bed. You need to go to bed." So I remember me and my cousin, we went to bed, went to go lay down, and my mom came and she put the dolls in our closet. Like my mom came and she said, "Y'all are gonna lay down. Y'all are gonna go to bed tomorrow. Y'all can play with y'all's dolls or whatever." Because the main reason why we didn't want to go to bed was because we were playing with our dolls. So I remember, and my cousin remembers, and I tell her, and I always ask her, like, "Remember my mom put those dolls in the closet?" And she's like, "Yes." So my mom came, chucked us into bed, laid us down, and the way our bed was, our door to go out into the living room was to the left. So as you walked in, our bed was here, leaning against the wall. Our closet door was like right here to my right, and then we had a big window in front of our bed. And I don't know why, like my bed is always facing the freaking window to the street light. Like I don't know why, but as a little girl, there was a big window, and obviously outside of the house, there was a street light that would kind of shine like light into the room. I remember my mom taking us in. We said our goodnight prayers and stuff, and we're laying there, and me and my cousin, like I remember, I was like, I thought my cousin was already asleep because she was pretty quiet. So I remember laying there, and our backs were facing each other. Like my face was facing towards the closet doors, and her face was facing towards the wall, towards kind of where the door was at, right?
I'm getting scared, yo.
So we're laying there, and I'm thinking, like, in my head, I'm probably like, "Oh, my cousin's already asleep." Like, she wasn't saying anything. And then all of a sudden, like, we're hearing, like, okay, we hear when my parents are, like, closing doors, going to bed and everything. So the reason my mom was big on, like, not closing doors and stuff, like, to our rooms. Like, she didn't like us locking doors, closing doors. But the main reason why she closed the door that day was because when she put us to bed, her and my dad were still like doing things in the kitchen, in the living room, like cleaning up and stuff. So she closed the door so that, I guess, to avoid the light from bugging me and my cousin from going to sleep. And she closed the door, so we're hearing like my mom kind of break down stuff in the kitchen, whatever. And I hear them when they go to bed because their room was down the hall to the left was their room. So I remember hearing her. And at night, she would close the door to her and my dad's room because my little sister Asher was, a baby at the time. So I remember hearing her, like, hearing all this stuff, processing and stuff. And once everything settles down, like, the house is completely quiet. Like, everything's so quiet, and I'm just, like, laying there, and then I'm just, like, and I wasn't, like, a big scaredy cat at the time. Like, I wasn't scared at all. But all of a sudden, you hear, like, little shoes, like, little feet running down the hall, like,
Heck.
And then I was just, like, I remember just, like, did I really just hear that? When you have to, like, second think, like, I'm a kid, and I was just, like, what was that, And then, again, like, coming back down the hall, like running.
Damn.
And I was just like, what is that? Like, I was just like, what the heck is going on? And I'm like, it's not my parents. Like, these little feet sounded like small little feet. And so then I remember kind of like, so my back's like this, right? I remember kind of turning like this, and I'm like, I whispered to my cousin, and she's like, ¿Qué pasó? And I'm just like, I'm in Spanish. I'm like, did you hear that? And she's like, yeah. And she's like looking, and so I kind of like lean over to like kind of hear her, And I see her because, like I said, the light is kind of glaring in, so I can kind of see her like facial expression. Her eyes are like looking like down at the door, and then again you hear the little footsteps.
Nah.
And when I hear those footsteps, since the
no.
light is like kind of shining down, you can see like little shadows of like they look like little feet running. And I was just like, what the heck is that? And again, it's like, let's just pray, let's just go to bed. And I'm just like, what is that? And she's like, in my head at that time, like, I don't know if you have ever heard of duendes. Like, I've always heard of duendes. My family has always talked about duendes. So in my head, I'm thinking like, it's like a duende or something. Like, maybe it's here in our house. And I'm little, right? So I started getting scared. So me and my cousin are just like holding hands and we start praying. And I remember we went to bed. Like, I went to sleep praying with her. I don't even remember like if I said goodnight to her. I just remember we were holding hands and we were praying. We fell asleep. Tell me why in the morning my mom comes in, she opens the door and she's like, you know, come eat breakfast, ya levántense a almorzar. And we're like, okay. So me and my cousin get up, we're like looking at each other, like wanting to ask each other like, did last night really happen? But we don't say anything to each other. We walk to the living room, sit down on the table, and my mom's like, why were y'all up last night playing with the dolls? And I was just like, me and my cousin, we look at each other and we're like, we weren't. And my mom's like, I told y'all last night when I went to go lay y'all down that y'all had to go to sleep, no more playing with the dolls. And I'm like, Mom, we didn't get up. Like, we weren't up playing with the dolls. The dolls are in the closet. And my mom's like, the dolls are right there. These two dolls
Man, that's crazy.
were sitting on the couch, on the freaking couch, in the living room couch. And me and my cousin, to this day, we talk about it, and I'm just like, that shit was scary. Like, I don't even know why we didn't tell my mom. Like, we heard that. I mean, we probably thought like my parents weren't gonna believe us or something, but those two freaking dolls were sitting on the living room couch. After that day, me and my cousin did not want to play with those dolls. And my mom would question us like, why don't y'all want to play with the doll? And I was like, I don't want the doll. I don't want the doll. My mom and my dad ended up throwing them away because we just didn't play with them. I don't know if I'm gonna play with that damn evil doll.
No, I wouldn't either.
Yeah.
Dolls are like one of the top. Growing up, to this day, my daughter has had some freaky dolls, and I trip out. Like the eyes, the face. I swear, it's just like I'll trust me.
Yeah, he doesn't like dolls. Well, because last Christmas my sister bought Aubrey and Bella
The weirdest. They
it's
look
like those
freaky.
real life looking dolls.
They look almost.
But it
real.
looked really creepy.
I can't, guys. I can't. Like, I purposely throw them, not throw them away, but like, Gabriel said he was getting scared listening to us, and then he said that I would have burnt them both, and then Polly's like, I don't like dolls.
But you know what's crazy? Like, I had never like. After I grew up, like I said, I try to like not think about these things. So I think I like try to erase that like thought out of my head. And I didn't bring it up till like a while back, like a few years back when we were sitting down, like my cousins and I and Oliver were sitting down and we were like telling scary stories. And then I looked at my cousin and I'm like, I'm gonna talk about a story and I want you to tell me if you remember. Before I even said anything, my cousin's like, the dolls we used to have. And I was like, you remember? I was like, so it did happen. Because for a while I thought I was just crazy, but I was like, well, maybe I was like, what if it was just a nightmare? Like, what if I just had a nightmare? But that day, I looked at my cousin and I was like, I'm going to tell a story. And if I tell it, I want you to tell me, like, you remember this. She dead ass looked at me and she's like, the one about the dolls? And I was just like, so it did happen.
Yeah.
And whenever again.
40 more.
So you telling me to shut up?
No, dang, nah. Hey, I gotta go to sleep. She don't be holding me or nothing. I be having to go to sleep like, I be like this, just trying to hold myself, man. She's the one that's got these big ass covers and stuff. But that was pretty much it for the scary stories, guys. We just wanted to give that part 2 for those scary stories. But next week we're gonna have something better for you guys. We got a couple of tricks up our sleeve, guys. But just glad you tuned in, glad you watched. So next